Hi, my name is Morten, and in this video we will be taking a look at the first step in the checkout flow, which is collecting address information for billing and for shipping addresses. We have implemented our basket, and now it's time to proceed with the first page of the checkout flow. Before we go ahead and do that, let me just state that a checkout flow can take many forms. It can be multiple steps, it can be a single page checkout or somewhere in between. In this example we will do a step-by-step checkout, which means that for each page there will be one dedicated task for the user to do, which is in this case to collect address information. This is just an example. You can define completely how your checkout flow should look like. Here we just keep it simple, so there's focus on the APIs and not so much the user experience. It can take many forms. We have a basket. Now we want to go to checkout. In my solution I have created the page called billing, and there's a billing controller associated with this, which is responsible for collecting billing and shipping information. It's a very simple form that just lists all the different things that you would usually collect in such flow. The important bits here are the country, which will be used to filter shipments and payments for the user. It's also important to collect the email address. All of these informations here are relevant, but in particular the country and the email serves a very specific purpose, which we will cover in this video. I also have this alternative shipping address, so I can enter a different set of information should I need that. This is just a front-end concern that we will then tackle in the controller. So let's go ahead and take a look at how the code is implemented. There's no code exercise in this video because it's more or less just boilerplate code, grabbing the information and mapping it out to the UI. So what is going on here is that I use transaction library, which I grab from the IRC container. And once I have transaction library, I can ask the API to give me the shipping information and get me the billing information. And then I basically just map out to my view model and return that to the UI. The controls here is a little special. I use not the transaction library, but I simply just use config.all. This is an entity that are being loaded from the database, the SQL database, and not from the index. This is because the transactional data of WooCommerce is still stored in SQL Server, so that's where I need to load it from. So I grab my countries and I map those out to a select list. What I really collect is the country ID, as we can also see in my view model, and that's because the country that I select, I pass in not the country itself, but the country ID to the API. So it's actually very simple. Transaction library get shipping information and transaction library.get billing information. WooCommerce supports multiple shipments, which means that there is an address per shipment that you want to collect, and there's only one billing information stored on the purchase order. Once we post our data back, we can use transaction library.edit billing information, and we just take in all the different IDs of the form. And then I say here that if I want to use an alternative address, then I simply just take the billing address and put it as the shipping address. And in case it's using alternatives, then I just swap over to the other address and then use that to pass that in to my shipping information. And last thing I do is I execute the basket pipeline, which will make sure that my basket is up to date and ready to be checked out further, so that in case my info that I enter here gives me different fees or in somehow changes the price of my products or changes the order total, then the order should be reflected that. So I call execute basket pipeline here in the end. As I was talking about, the country ID was special because that narrows what shipping options and payment options I can use when I go through the checkout flow. And then the email here is equally important to my checkout flow as well. And that's because once we actually do the checkout and once we actually do call edit shipping and edit billing information, then we will only collect the information regarding the address and shipment information, not necessarily who the actual customer is. So that will first happen when we do the actual checkout. Once the order is being checked out, UCommerce will redirect the user to the particular payment gateway in use. The customer will enter his credit card information and get back from the payment. Once this happens, UCommerce executes a post-processing pipeline, which is a pipeline that is being executed once a payment has been approved, and then we will run a checkout pipeline. In the checkout pipeline, we will further enrich the order with the actual customer data, and here the email address serves as a unique key to figure out who the actual customer are. So in case the customer is a new customer, we will create a new customer object. The way we determine that is via the email address on the billing information, not this one, but up here, where I edit my billing information. We try to find a customer that has this email address. We also try to find the customer based on who's logged into the CMS. So we will ask the CMS and match based on that email address. And if nothing can be found, then we will create that customer object and associate that with the order, where the email serves as the unique key that we're looking for. When that happens, UCommerce will use the billing information to further enrich the customer objects detail based on that. The reason that we have it stored in multiple places are that a customer can have many orders, but one order snapshot should contain what is the billing address and the shipping address at the time the user checks out, and then he has the ability to change this information later on, leaving the order unaffected, so to speak. So that's why it happens at checkout and why we store them in multiple different address objects. UCommerce stores the billing information as a single property on the purchase order. So once you have the purchase order in hand, you can say .billing address. Whereas for shipments, it's a little bit different, as UCommerce supports different shipments and different shipment addresses. So not just a single one, so you'll have a collection of addresses. And here there's an address name associated with that particular address. So in case that you choose to have some functionality where the customer can select, for example, in a drop down where the shipment goes to, then you can load up a collection of those associated with the customer as well. All right, those were the APIs, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you in the next one.